Chapter 9, The True Prince. On that Sunday night, Marta continued, I went to bed early, about 8 o'clock, I think, like most younger children. My father was in the living room. He was talking to the soldier. The soldier stayed for a meal that evening. I could hear their voices through the walls. They had the new paraffin lamp in there with them, I remember. It made a bright light in the room. Anita was in our room, too. Father sent her to bed because the soldier was there. She was lying on her bed and reading by the light of a small oil lamp. She was listening to the talk in the living room, too. I remember that we could hear the soldier's deep voice very clearly through the thin walls. I think I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was later, but not very late. The bright light from the lamp was still shining under the door of the living room. My parents were in there talking quietly, but the soldier wasn't there with them. Anita was taking things out of her box and putting them in a bag. I sat up and spoke to her. She told me to be quiet. She continued taking her best dresses out of the box and putting them in the bag. I asked her what she was doing. I am going to meet my true love, my true prince, she said. I'm going away with him. She laughed and sang quietly. The girl with the magic ring will always know her true love. She told me to say nothing. Then she went very quietly to the back door and went out into the dark night. Her hand quietly pulled the door closed behind her. On her middle finger, she wore the gold ring shaped like a fish. I went to the window and looked out. I was terribly afraid. I knew Anita was a silly child, but this was very, very wrong. If Father finds out, he'll kill her, I thought. He gets angry very quickly, and he's very strong. But I was afraid of Anita too, so I stood there looking out of the window. I cried quietly. There was no moon, and it was very dark. I heard music playing in the cafe along the beach. It was a nice song, a slow song. I listened to the music and the soft sound of the waves on the beach. Soon I felt a little better. After a long time, I started to feel cold, so I went back to my bed and fell asleep. I woke up much later. The house was dark and quiet. My parents were asleep. Nobody was talking anywhere in the house. Anita's bed was still empty. I went to the window again. The moon was up and I could see the houses along the beach. There was still a light in the cafe and music playing. I went back to bed. I cried until I fell asleep. I hoped that it was a bad dream. When I woke again, the first gray light of the new day was in the room. Anita's bed was still empty. I lay in bed with my eyes closed until my mother came to wake us. When she found Anita's empty bed, she started to shout and scream. Then I opened my eyes. I soon started to cry too. I never told them where she went or what she said. There was terrible shouting and crying in our house that day, but we never saw Anita again. So you think she went to see Raphael? I said slowly. Oh no, said Marta. I think she went to meet the soldier, Carlos. That's why she called him her true prince. He was like someone in a story, you see. First, the beautiful princess falls in love with a poor fisherman. Then, either he turns into a handsome prince, or a real prince comes along and takes her away to his palace. I'm afraid Anita was quite a silly girl, really. She lived the stories in her head. After the soldier came to the village, she started to meet him at night. She went to the same place in the rocks, but she was meeting the soldier, not Raphael. She went there many times. Then that night, she didn't come back. She went away with him in his boat. In those days, perhaps a boat with no engine was like a magic carpet. But she was wearing the gold ring when she went? I asked. Yes, she took all her best things, dresses, her storybooks, and the ring. But Raphael has that ring. He has worn it around his neck for more than 13 years. I know, she said. I think she spoke to Raphael that night. I think she told him her plans. Then she gave him his ring and went off to meet the soldier somewhere along the coast. Is that really what you think? I asked. Yes, said Marta. She said goodbye to Raphael and gave him his ring. Then she went to meet the soldier. That's what made Raphael mad. He went to look for her the next day, but all the time he had the ring around his neck. He wanted her to come back, or he wanted her father to find her and bring her back. But she never came, and when she didn't come, Raphael went mad. When you talk to Raphael, what does he say? He holds the ring and says, "She gave me the ring," or "She gave me the golden fish," I answered. Exactly, said Marta. First she took his ring and said, "I love you." Then she gave it back to him and went away with the soldier. That's what made the poor man crazy. What's so special about the ring? I asked. What did Anita say? Something about a magic ring? The girl with the magic ring will always know her true love. It was in her story, said Marta. Her own story. She wrote it herself. It wasn't a story that she read in a book. It was her favorite story. She told it to us hundreds of times. And it was about a magic ring? Yes. In fact, I have the story here. Anita wrote it in a notebook, and I kept it. It's the only thing of Anita's that I have. I can't read it, of course, but it's that story. Marta went into another room and came back with a small, thin notebook. She carried it carefully in both hands. She put it on the table in front of me. It was a cheap school writing book. The pages were yellow with age. There was only one story in it. It was called The Ring of the Golden Fish. The story was short. It was written in pencil in the large, clear writing of a young child. Luis and Marta looked at me. I realized they were waiting. They wanted to hear me read the story to